Chapter 10, 3:25. The mouse is here again. He keeps stopping and looking at me. He's wondering if he should run away, whether I'm a friend or a foe. We skilleth, calling timorous beastie. I don't know what half the words mean, but I still know the poem. Back at school, Miss McAllister made us stand up and recite it on Burns Day. She said it was good for us to have at least one great Scottish poem in our heads forever. This wee beastie is timorous, all right, but he's not Scottish, he's a Belgian mouse. I recite the poem to him all the same. He seems to understand because he listens politely. I do it in Miss McAllister's Scottish accent. I'm almost word perfect. I think Miss McAllister would have been very proud of me. But the moment I finished, he's gone, and I am alone once more. Earlier, they came and asked if I wanted someone to stay with me through the night, and I said no. I even sent the padre away. They asked if there was anything that I wanted, anything they could help to do, and I said that there was nothing. Now I longed to have them all here. We could have had sing-songs. They could have bought me egg and chips, and we could have drunk ourselves silly, and I could be numb with it all by now. But all I've had for company is a mouse, a vanishing Belgian mouse. The next time they sent us up into the line, it wasn't back to our quiet sector. It was into the Wipers salient itself. For months now, Fritz had been pounding away at Wipers, trying to wipe out everything that he could batter into submission. Time and again, he'd almost broken through into the town and had only been driven back at the very last moment. But the salient around the town was shrinking all the time. From the talk in the Estaminet in Pop, and from the almost constant bombardment a few miles to the east of us, we all knew how bad it must be there. Everyone knew they'd surrounded and overlooked us on three sides, so that they could chunk all they wanted to into our trenches. Oh, not chunk, sorry, right. Okay. Everyone knew that they had us surrounded and overlooked on three sides. This meant they could chuck all they wanted into our trenches, and there was nothing more that we could do about it, except grin and bear it. Our new company commander, Lieutenant Buckland, told us how things were. How, if we gave way, then Wipers would be lost. Wipers, and that Wipers must not be lost. He didn't say why it mustn't be lost, but then he wasn't Wilkie. We all felt the loss of Wilkie very keenly. Without him, we were like sheep without a shepherd. Lieutenant Buckland was doing his best, but he was straight out from England. He might have been very properly spoken, but he knew even less about fighting this war than we did. Nippers said that he was just a young pipsqueak, and that he belonged back at school. And it was true. He seemed younger than any of us, even me. As we marched through Wipers that evening, I wondered why it was worth fighting for at all. So far as I could see, there was no town left. Nothing you could call a town, anyway. Rubble and ruin, that's all the place was. More dogs and cats than townspeople. We saw 2 horses lying dead and mangled in the street, as we passed by what was left of the town hall, and everywhere there were soldiers and guns and ambulances on the move and hurrying. They were not shelling the town as we came through, but I was as terrified then as I had ever been. I could not get those horses and their terrible wounds out of my head. The sight of them had haunted me. Haunted all of us, I think. None of us sang. None of us talked. I longed only to reach the sanctuary of our new trenches, to crawl into the deepest dugout I could find and hide away. But when we got there, the trenches were a bitter disappointment to us. Wilkie would have been appalled at the state of them. In places they were little more than shallow, dilapidated ditches, affording us precious little protection, and the mud here was even deeper than it had been before. There was a sickly sweet stench about the place that had to be more than There was a sickly sweet stench about the place that had to be more than just stagnant mud and water. I knew well enough what it was. And we all did, but no one dared speak of it. Word came back that from now on we should keep our heads down, because here was when we would most likely be easily spotted by their snipers. What's a swiper? Snipers. But there was at least some consolation when we reached the dugout. It was the best we'd ever had, deep and warm and dry. I could not sleep, though. I lay there that night, knowing how a hunted fox must feel. It's going well today. How a hunted Fox must feel, lying low in his lair with the hounds waiting for him outside. I am on stand to the next morning, locked inside my gas mask in a world of my own, listening to myself breathing. The mist rises over no man's land, and I see in front of me a blasted wasteland. No vestige of fields or trees here, not a blade of grass, simply a land of mud and craters. I see unnatural humps scattered over there beyond our wire. They are in the unburied, some in field grey uniforms and some in khaki. There is one lying in the wire with his arms stretched heavenwards, his hand pointing. He is one of ours, or he was. I look up to where he is pointing, and there are birds up there, and they are singing. I see a beady-eyed blackbird singing to the world from his barbed wire perch. He has no tree to sing from any more. The pipsqueak of a lieutenant says, "Keep your eyes peeled, lads. Keep your wits about you." He's always doing that. Always telling us to do things that we're already doing. But nothing moves out there in no man's land but the crows. It is a dead man's land. We're back in the dugout after stand to, brewing up when the bombardment starts. It doesn't stop for 2 whole days. They are the longest 2 days of my life. I cower there. We all do, each of us alone in our own private misery. We cannot talk for the sheer din. There can be little sleep, but when I do sleep, I see the hand pointing skyward, and it is father's hand, and I wake shaking. Nipper Martin has got the shakes too, and Pete tries to calm him down, but he can't. I cry like a baby sometimes, and not even Charlie can comfort me. We want nothing more than for it to stop, for the earth to be still again, and for there to be quiet. I know that when it's over they'll be coming for us, that I'll have to be ready for them, for the gas maybe, or for the flamethrower, or for the grenades, or the bayonets. But I don't mind how they come. Let them come. I just want this all to stop, and I just want it to be over. When at last it does, we are ordered out onto the fire step, gas masks on, bayonets fixed, eyes straining through the smoke that drifts across in front of us, and then out of the smoke we see them coming. Their bayonets glinting. 1 or 2 at first, but then hundreds, thousands. Charlie's there beside me. "You'll be all right, Tomo," he says. "You'll be fine." He knows my thoughts. He sees my terror, and he knows that I just want to run. "You just do what I do, all right, and stay by me." I stay, and I do not run, only because of Charlie. The firing starts all along the line, machine guns and rifle fire, shelling, and I'm firing too. I'm not aiming, I'm just firing, loading, and firing again, and still they do not stop. For a few moments it seems as if bullets do not touch them. They come on towards us completely unscathed, an army of invincible grey ghosts. Only when they begin to crumple and cry out and fall do I believe that they are in fact mortal. They are brave too, they do not falter. No matter how many are cut down, those that are left keep coming. I can see their wild eyes as they reach our wire. It is the wire that stops them. Somehow, enough of it has survived the bombardment. Only a few of them manage to find gaps, and they are shot down before they ever reach our trenches. Those that are left, and there are not many now, have turned and are stumbling back, some throwing away their rifles. I feel a surge of triumph welling inside me, not because we have won, but because I have stood with the others, and I have not run. "You ain't a coward, are you?" "No, old woman, I am not. I am not." Then the whistle goes, and I am up with the others, and I am after them. We pour through the gap in the wire. They lie here so thick on the ground that it is hard not to step on them. I have no pity for them, but I have no hatred for them either. They came to kill us, and we killed them. I look up. They are running from us as we go forwards. We fire at will now, picking them off one by one. We are across no man's land before we know it, and we find a way through their wire, and we leap down into their front line trenches. I am a hunter now, seeking out my quarry. A quarry I will kill, but my quarry has gone, and the trench is deserted. Lieutenant Buckland is up on the parapet now, screaming at us to follow him, that we've got them on the run, so I follow. We all follow. He is not so much of a pipsqueak as we all thought, apparently. Everywhere I look, to my right, to my left, as far as I can see, we are advancing, and I am a part of it, and I feel suddenly exhilarated. But in front of us, the enemy seems to have completely vanished. I am unsure what to do now. I look all around for Charlie, and I cannot see him anywhere. That's when the first shell comes screaming over. I throw myself down, and I flatten myself into the mud as it explodes close behind me, deafening me in an instant. After a while, I force myself to lift my head up, and I look around. Ahead of me, I see us advancing still, and everywhere in front of us, the flash of rifle fire and the spitting flame of machine guns. For a moment, I think that I am already dead. All is soundless, and all around me feels unreal. A silent storm of shelling rages about me. Before my eyes, we are scythed down, blown apart, and obliterated. I see men crying out, but I hear absolutely nothing. It is as if I am not there, as if this horror can no longer touch me. They are stumbling back towards me now, but I can't see Charlie among them. The lieutenant grabs me and he hauls me to my feet. He's shouting at me, then turning me and pushing me back towards our own trenches. I am trying to run with the others, trying to keep up with them, but my legs are leaden and they will not let me run. The lieutenant stays with me, urging me on, urging us all on. He is a good man. He's right there alongside me when he's hit. He drops to his knees and he dies looking up at me. I see the light fade in his eyes, and I watch him fall forward onto his face. I do not know how I managed to get back after that, but I do. I find myself curled up in the dugout, and the dugout is half empty. Charlie is not there, and he has not come back. At least I can hear again now, even if it is mostly the ringing in my own head. Pete has news of Charlie. He says he's sure that he saw him on the way back from the German trenches, hobbling, using his rifle as a stick, but all right. That gives me some fragile hope, but it is hope that ebbs away as every hour passes. As I lie there, I relive each and every horror that I saw. I see the puzzled look on the lieutenant's face as he kneels there trying to speak to me. I see 1,000 silent screams. To drive these visions away, I tell myself in all manner of reassuring tales all about Charlie. How Charlie must be out there somewhere in some crater, only waiting for the clouds to cover the moon before he crawls back. How maybe he's got himself lost and has landed up somewhere down... Charlie must be out there in some crater, only waiting for the clouds to cover the moon before he crawls back to us. How he's got himself lost and has landed up somewhere down the line with another regiment, and that he will find his way back to us in the morning. It happens all the time. My mind races, and it will not let me rest. There is no shelling to interrupt my thoughts anymore. Outside, the world has fallen completely silent. Both armies lie exhausted in their trenches and slowly bleeding to death. If I stand to the next morning, I know for sure that Charlie would not be coming. I knew for sure that Charlie would not be coming back. That all my stories had been just that. Stories. Pete and Nipper and the others had tried to convince me that he might still be alive, but I knew that he was not. I was not grieving. I was numb inside, as void of all feeling as the hands that clutched my rifle. I looked out over no man's land where Charlie had died. They lay there as if they'd been heaped against the wire by the wind, and Charlie, I knew deep down, was one of them. I wondered what I would write to Molly and to Mother. I could hear Mother's voice in my head, hear her telling Big Joe how Charlie would not be coming back, how he had gone to heaven to be with Father and Bertha. Big Joe would be sad, he would rock. He would hum his song mournfully up his tree. But after a few days his faith would comfort him. He would believe absolutely that Charlie was up there in the blue of heaven, high above the church tower somewhere. I envied him of that. I could no longer even pretend to myself that I believed in a merciful God, nor in heaven. Not any more. Not after I had seen what men could do to one another. I could believe only in the hell I was living in, a hell on earth, and it was man-made. That night, like a man sleepwalking, I got up to take my turn on sentry duty. The sky was filled with stars. Molly knew the stars well, the Plough, the Milky Way, the Pole Star. She'd often tried to teach me them when we were all out poaching. I tried to remember, and I tried to identify them in amongst the millions, but I failed. As I was looking up in wonder at the immensity and the beauty of it all, I found myself almost believing in heaven again. I picked one bright star in the west to be Charlie, and I picked another next to him, which was Father. They were together looking down on me. I wished then that I had told Charlie how Father had really died, for there would be no secrets between us now. I shouldn't have kept it from him. So, unspeaking, I told him then, and I saw him glisten in the sky and wink at me. And I knew he had understood, and he did not blame me. Then I heard Charlie's voice in my head. "Don't go all dreamy on lookout, Tomo," he was saying. "You'll fall asleep. You can get shot for that." I widened my eyes, blinked them hard, and I took a deep gulp of cold air to wake me up. Only moments later, I saw something move out beyond the wire. I listened. There was still a ringing in my ear, so I couldn't be sure of it, but I thought I could hear someone. A voice. And a voice that was not inside my head. It was a whisper. "Hey! Anyone there? It's me, Charlie Peaceful. D Company. I'm coming in. Don't shoot." Perhaps I was already asleep and deep in a wonderful dream that I wanted to be true, but the voice came again, and louder this time. "What's the matter with you lot? Are you all fast asleep or what? It's Charlie. Charlie Peaceful." From under the wire, a dark shape shifted and moved towards me. Not a dream, not one of my make-believe stories. It was Charlie. I could see his face now, and he could see mine. "Tomo, you dozy beggar, you. Give us a hand, will you?" I grabbed him and tumbled him down into the trench. "Am I glad to see you?" he said. We hugged one another. I don't think we ever had before. I cried, and I tried unsuccessfully to hide it, until I felt him crying too. "What happened?" I asked. "They shot me in the foot. Can you believe it? Shot right through my boot. Bled like a pig. I was on my way back and I passed out in some shell hole. By the time I woke up, all of you lot had gone off and left me. I had to stay put till nightfall. Seems like I've been crawling all night." "Does it hurt?" "Can't feel a thing," said Charlie, "but then I can't feel the other foot either. I'm frozen stiff. Don't you worry though, Tomo. I'll be right as rain." They stretchered him to the hospital that night, and I did not see him again until they pulled us out of the line a few days later. Pete and I went to see him as soon as we could. He was sitting up in his bed and he was grinning all over his face. "It's good in here," he says. "You want to try it sometime. 3 decent meals a day, nurses, no mud, and a nice long way from Mr. Fritz." "How's the foot?" I asked him. "Foot? What foot?" He patted his leg. "That's not a foot, Tomo. That's my ticket home. Some nice, kind Mr. Fritz gave me the best present that he could, a ticket home to Blighty. They're sending me to a hospital back home. It's a bit infected, lots of bones broken, they said. It'll mend, but it'll take an operation. And then I've got to rest it up, so they're packing me off tomorrow." I knew I should be pleased for him, and I wanted to be, but I just could not bring myself to think that way. All I could think was that we'd come to this war together. We'd stuck together through thick and thin, and now he was breaking the bond between us, and he was deserting me. Worst of all, he was going home without me, and he was so unashamedly happy about it. "I'll give them your best, Tomo," he said. "Pete will keep an eye on you for me. You'll look after him, won't you, Pete?" "I don't need looking after," he snapped. But Charlie either hadn't heard me, or he had chosen to ignore it. "And you make sure he behaves, Pete. That girl in Pop, she's got her eye on him. She'll eat him alive." They laughed at my embarrassment, and I could not disguise my hurt and my discomfort. "Hey, Tomo," Charlie put his hand on my arm. "I'll be back before you know it." And he was serious now, for the first time. "Promise," he said. "You'll be seeing Molly then, and Mother?" I asked. "Just let them try and stop me," he said. "I'll wangle a bit of leave. Or maybe they'll come and see me in hospital. With a bit of luck, I could get to see the baby. Less than a month to go now, Tomo, and I'll be a father. You'll be an uncle too, think of that." But the evening after Charlie had left for Blighty, I wasn't thinking of that at all. I was in pop, drowning my beer in anger. Oops. I was in pop, dranging. I'll try that one again. It's good on it. But the evening after Charlie had left for Blighty, I wasn't thinking of that at all. I was in pop, drowning my anger in beer. And it was anger I was drowning. It wasn't just my sorrows. It was anger at Charlie for abandoning me. Anger that he was to see Molly and home, and that I was not. In my befuddled state, I even thought of deserting, of going after him. I'd make my way to the channel and I'd find a boat. I'd get home somehow. I looked around me. There must have been 100 or more soldiers in the place that evening. Peter Nipper, Martin, and some of the others among them. But I felt completely alone. They were laughing, and I could not laugh. They were singing, and I could not sing. I couldn't even eat my egg and chips. It was stiflingly hot in there, and the air was thick with cigarette smoke. I could hardly breathe. I went outside to get some air. That brought me very quickly to my senses, and I gave up all at once the idea of deserting. I would go back to camp instead. It was the easier choice. You can get shot for desertion. Tommy? It was her. It was the girl. She was carrying out a crate of wine bottles. You are ill? She asked me. Tongue-tied, I shook my head. We stood for some moments listening to the thunder of guns as a heavy barrage opened up over Wipers. The sky lit up over the town like an angry sunset. Flares rose and hovered and fell over the front line. It is beautiful, she said. How can it be beautiful? I wanted to speak, but I did not trust myself to do so. I felt suddenly overwhelmed by tears, by longing for home, and for Molly. How old? She asked. 16, I muttered. Like me, she said. I found her looking at me more closely. I have seen you before, I think. I nodded. I will see you again, perhaps? Yes, I said, and then she was gone, and I was alone again in the night. I was calmer now, and I was more at peace with myself, and stronger too. Walking back to camp, I made up my mind. We were being sent away for training the next day, but as soon as I came back, I would go straight to Pop. And when the girl brought me my egg and chips, I would be brave, and I would ask her for her name. 2 weeks later, I was back, and that is just what I did. Anna, she told me, and she tinkled with laughter when I told her that my name was Tomo. It's true, then, she said. Every English soldier is called Tommy. It's not Tommy, it's Tomo, I replied. It's the same, she laughed, but you are different from the others, I think. When she heard that I had worked on a farm and with horses, she took me into the stable and she showed me her father's cart horse. He was massive and magnificent. Our hands met as we patted him. She kissed me then, and she brushed my cheek with her lips. I left her and I walked back along the gusty road to camp under the high riding moon, singing Oranges and Lemons at the very top of my voice. Pete greeted me in the tent with a scowl. You won't be so ruddy happy, Tomo, when you hear what I've got to tell you. What? I asked. Our new sergeant. It's only horrible Hanley from Eatables. From then on, every waking hour of every waking day, Hanley was at us. We'd been mollycoddled, he said. We were sloppy soldiers, and he was going to lick us back into shape. And we weren't allowed out of camp until he was satisfied. And of course, he was never satisfied. So I couldn't get out of camp to see Anna again. By the time we went back up in the line, Hanley snapping at our heels, his voice had become a vicious bark inside each of our heads. Every one of us hated him like a poison. A great deal more than we'd ever hated Fritz.